Philip Ingram, who is a former British intelligence officer. He joins us now from London. Philip, good to have you on the show. All right, we're going to talk to you about chemical weapons. Let me make it clear that the Ukrainian president has said that chemical weapons could have been used. He's underlined that. I mean, but other Ukrainian officials are saying otherwise. I mean, given the West's current stance towards Russia, and that it's somewhat difficult to actually categorically pinpoint that chemical weapons have been used based on second-hand and third-hand reports, what is the likelihood, do you think, that these weapons have been used?
I personally think it's unlikely that they've been used. What have we got here? We've got a single source report out of the Azov regiment that are defending the final bastions of Mariupol. They're holed up in a steel factory or a steel complex where there's an awful lot of industrial toxic chemicals around, and the Russians are dropping explosives into there to try and defeat them and push them out. Explosives and toxic industrial chemicals mixed with wind blowing them around could cause a chemical hazard that would cause similar symptoms. And again, this unconfirmed report says it was a drone that spread something in. That's not a usual way to get the sort of concentrations of chemicals that you'd need to cause a weaponized effect in there, and it's very difficult. So, I think I've got a lot of skepticism about this being a deliberate chemical attack by the Russians against the Ukrainians, even though we've heard Russian commentators only a few days ago to suggest that breaking the siege of Mariupol chemicals should be used. And we saw this as the playbook where the Russians supported Bashar al-Assad in Syria using chemical weapons against his own people. But the situation is different here. So I'm very skeptical, and it's a weapon of mass effect because of the emotion it creates amongst the international community, and we're in dangerous ground if we read too much into it.
That is a very good point you make. Since you made that reference to Syria, let me bring that up. Last month, U.S. President Joe Biden said that NATO would respond if Russia used chemical weapons. Let's not forget, this is the first time that we're seeing this type of rhetoric coming out of the mouth of a U.S. president. Like you said, Barack Obama said this was going to be a red line if chemical weapons in Syria were used. Yet nothing happened there. Do you expect, if they are used, what type of response do you expect from the West?
That's a very difficult one, and the Western leaders will be sitting down debating that. And Barack Obama, by refusing to take action against Bashar al-Assad and against the Russians whenever his red line was crossed, has left it wide open for Putin to turn around and go, well, hey, I don't care about red lines, whether it's Joe Biden saying it or not, because you're not going to live up to anything. So he will see that as no consequences to him. And the Western community will be going, well, we need to do something, but what they won't want to do is take that red line beyond the point where it then means that NATO or other elements of the international community are becoming directly involved in the conflict inside Ukraine, because something that is very tightly geographically bound at the moment into the sovereign territory of Ukraine. If international community come in and start actively fighting in that area, then that boundary changes, and the horrors that we're seeing will be magnified by 10 or 100 or more.
We know that the Ukrainian president has been expressing his displeasure in terms of not getting enough support from the West, whether it's financial aid, specifically when it comes to military arms. I mean, you mentioned that this story is evoking an emotional response. Do you think that this might be sort of a tactic that's being put on by the Ukrainian president, and because he's come out and said that, we're not getting the weapons so we can end this war sooner?
It is a tactic. Information is being used and manipulated by all sides in this. And it's right and proper that President Zelenskyy tries as much as he can to stimulate more weapons coming into Ukraine to support his fight against the illegal invasion by the Russians. But he's been very careful in his language not to take it too far. There are some countries are providing lots of weapons. There are other countries providing fewer weapons, and he's trying to get even more. He's on a fight for national survival here and the survival of his people. So we have to expect him to be slightly freer with his interpretation of what's going on if he thinks that can help him.
Okay. All right. Philip Ingram, thank you very much for joining us here on the NewsHour. I do appreciate the analysis. Thank you.